Megh Ale, welcome to NepalSutra.
Thank you for inviting me.
To begin this interview, we'd like to briefly touch upon your childhood. So tell us a little about your childhood, how it was.
I was born in Adikola, by the bank of Adikola. That's in Sengza district, Wali.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I was born. And if you talk about my childhood, so it's just every day going to the river, swimming and going to the school. And actually, so skipping school sometimes, classes, and going to the river. So that was my childhood, playing with the fishermen community. And a lot of my friends were, from fishermen tribe, like Majis. So yeah, so that was my childhood. And so when I was, escaping school, my parents were obviously very worried. And actually my father, he took me to India and put me in a boarding school so that I don't run away from the school. So every day, or like, almost every day we used to go to the river and play, do fishing or, all this. So again, I did my schooling in India, Dehradun, but in my school holidays coming to, Waling, so in Adikola, again, just, getting along with the river community and, playing with them and going out fishing. So it was like, just, yeah. So that was my childhood. And I was after schooling, so from India. Then I did my bachelor's. So I studied my bachelor's in Kathmandu. So like in Sakarvik campus. So then, yeah.
How did the interest in environment come about? Were you always keen on putting the environment first?
I started my river rafting career as a river guide. And that's how I fell in love with the river, so with the nature. So I thought, why not we do something about it? Looking at all those beautiful, pristine rivers in Nepal, and it's a lot of, a lot of wilderness, full of flora and fauna, and again, so when you look at, what's happening, like there's many plans for damming of many of the rivers. So you could look at all those flood situations, the landslide, the deforestation. So, and even then, like all those rivers where we used to do rafting, say for example the Karnali, the Sunkosi, the Tamur, and all these rivers. So, and we thought, we got to do something. It's a place called Zamune. It's a ward number 9 in Surkhet district. The village is called Betan, BDC.
Okay.
So from that area, they used to go to school. They had to walk for at least 3 hours to get to the nearest school.
Okay.
And when we were there, so was, people were asking like if we could help with the school. They thought, we're the strangers on the raft. They never seen that kind of people before with a helmet and jacket on and floating down the river. They thought we are a development worker. And when they approached us, if we could help the school, and we said, well, we are not here to build the school, but definitely it's very interesting. Maybe we'd like to come up in the meeting. So that's how it's always started. We established a little primary school there called the Karnali Primary School. And then one of the idea was, so all the students, whoever joins the school, they need to plant a tree at their home, and they can join the school. So and then formally, so we started talking about this with like-minded river guides, and why not we start a conservation work. So we call it Nepal River Conservation. So then 1995, finally we were able to register Nepal River Conservation Trust as non-profit organization. We've been lobbying, we've been training river guides, like say river guides, they are the best ambassador for river conservation, because they are the perfect mediator between the local community as well as the outsiders, the tourists. And they go along the river, they camp, they can talk to the local community, they can educate the tourists. Also looking at how we could help Nepal, the government, to come up with a river legislation. So we have many rivers, so more than 6,000 rivers and streams, but yet we don't have proper legislation for river. So this is what we are working on. But Himalayan rivers, that's one of the most beautiful river we have. So if you look at the Sunkosi, the Karnali, Sunkosi considered among the best 10 rivers in the world, classic rivers in the world for whitewater rafting and kayaking. And the beach, the rapids, the culture along it. Look at Karnali, that's among the best 5 rivers in the world. So in terms of wilderness, in terms of flora and fauna, in terms of excitement, and all of it. Nepal River Conservation Trust, as well as the Rafting Association of Nepal. So we're working on how we could lobby, how we could protect some of this pristine river. And we do have a potential of more than 83,000 megawatt, and we got that many rivers. So why not we keep some of these rivers free-flowing, some of these rivers designated as wild and scenic, some of those rivers, protected for, tourism, whitewater rafting, kayaking. So this is what we work on.
And because we're already on the topic of Nepal River Conservation Trust, which is your organization, could I ask you a little about the cleanup events the organization comes up with to save the rivers of Nepal, and tell us also a little about the activities it has undertaken so far, the cleanup activities.
Well, cleanup activities is very small portion, very small part. But the main portion is how do we protect, how do we conserve this river? Since we have more than 6,000 rivers, and we have an elevation starting from 60 meter, going all the way to 8,000 meter, like Mount Everest. So if we kind of designate, say in average 80 meter to 200 meter, it can be irrigation zone. From 200 to 1,200 could be like a wild and scenic, or recreational, or livelihood zone. Then above 200 we could have this hydro energy development zone. All the activities, all the development can sustain, whether it's tourism, whether it's agriculture, whether it's hydro energy, right? So and in between we could have some of these national parks. So like say in west, maybe the Karnali can be the national park, especially the Humla Karnali, which comes from all the way from Mount Kailas, goes all the way to the Ganges. And why not, we have a river which connects the Tibet Plateau, the Himalayas, Mahabharat Lake, Churia Hills, Tarai, and all the way to Gangetic Plain. Similarly, we have a river in Gandaki watershed, so that could be like one of the river we asked, why not one Madi, which flows from Longzum Himal, Annapurna, which joins the Shakti and Trishuli, and goes all the way to Narayani. So that way, so that's the only free-flowing river at the moment. And similarly in the east, like in Kosi watershed, maybe Tamur or Kosi, so one of the river can be free-flowing. In between, so we could always talk about maybe few reservoirs according to need of the nation and how we could generate. So that way it's much more planned. And if you're talking about the cleanup within, we started Bagmati River Festival back in 2001, and we call this festival of 21st century. We started with one day, that was in monsoon, so obviously it's big water. We invite the policymakers, we'll invite the students, the journalists, the artists. So we all have a conversation with the river, and that way, so we'll understand more. At the takeout, that's where we will have a stall. That's where we have a plantation. People who have done the work on the conservation, they can display their work, and then we'll have musicians playing, and the musicians, the celebrities will address the issue, and there will be a lot of fans attending this, so that way we can really generate this awareness campaign in a good way, in a big way. So this is how we started this Bagmati River Festival, and for 3 years we did just one day. I came up with the idea, I said, why not we do it not one day but 2.5 months. So we start from June, so we finish in August. But how do we do every day? But we said it's not every day, every weekend. So when people are free, actually they can contribute their time to clean up the river, to do something about the river. And so then we approach the schools, we approach the river communities, we approach the youth volunteers. So they all come along and do the work. And there are probably around maybe 100, maybe more than 100 but all these organizations, they don't know each other. They don't know what they're doing. You know, what one organization is doing, the other organization doesn't know. You know? So that way, in platform we can share, right? So this is the idea. This is time to add up our generation's festival. You know, so our ancestors, the ancestors who established those festivals, it was very relevant. Say, for example, if you take a dip in the Bagmati, then you can cleanse in your body. But now, if you take a dip in the Bagmati, then what will happen? You'll go to the emergency, right?
Sure.
So, but you know, so now the need of this time's festival is clean up plantation, you know, work with the communities, and you know, yeah. So this is the whole idea, to bring people close to the river. And until you go close to the river, how you can think about cleaning it up.
Sure.
You know? So the whole idea is, how do we bring lots of people close to the river? They all can understand. Once they understand, they start loving it, caring it, then only it's possible to conserve it.
And moving on to a little different topic, you were elected to the Ashoka Fellowship in 2007. Tell us a little about it.
Well, Ashoka Fellow, I didn't know much about Ashoka. Then I was picked. Basically, they saw my work, I guess, what I do with the river and conservation.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been honored as Ashoka Fellow. I was invited to America to attend a seminar about, it's called Environmental Leadership Program, ELP. That was in University of California, Berkeley, UC Berkeley.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I was there for like almost 4 weeks.
Okay.
So that's where I presented my paper about the river. And so that's true again, that's with Ashoka Fellow. I love it for, you know, we have many international days or world days, like World Environment Day, World Wetland Day, World Water Day, but why not International River Day? When you look at, the world, so all the scientists, the politicians, they all talk about the next biggest war is going to happen about, the fresh water, the river.
Sure.
And, but, have we done much about it? Should we just wait till the war to happen, or we do something? And why not we have an International River Day? So when we celebrate the river, when we bring the people together, instead of fighting over, why not we, share its benefit? So that way, so we can prevent the war. And the Himalayan rivers are the lifeline of, pretty close to 1.4 billion people. And that way, so Nepal, can be in a forefront or in a leadership role to conserve some of these Himalayan rivers.
So Megh, what is ecotourism and sustainable tourism to you in the context of Nepal?
Ecotourism, that's a gifted thing for Nepal. Look at the ecology of Nepal. So one of the tourism, in Nepal could sustain or could promote would be the ecotourism. From lowland to highland, the ecotourism to be practiced. At the same time, if you're talking about sustainable tourism, in sustainable tourism, especially in the village, so tourism will not sustain until or unless we share the benefit with the rural communities.
Sure.
The tourism dollar or rupees has to reach to all those rural places as well. So that's the only way forward to sustain the tourism. Our tourism product is in rural area. So whether it's Mustang, Manang, or Tharu village, or you name it, in Jumla, Humla, Mugu, so we sell their nature, their culture, their rivers, their mountains, their lakes. So, but they get very little. So this benefit has to be shared.
And tell us about your work, your businesses, and how you found your balance between keeping your love for the rivers alive in the everyday work that you do?
Well, I've been one of the very luckiest, person, and my business is my passion, so I live with it. Yeah.
Okay. And NepalSutra as a tourism portal, you've known about this for a while now,
Yeah.
and you had also graced us with your company at the public launch event. And what are your impressions of this portal?
I think it's a beautiful idea, and it's not only an idea, but the way the team is working towards it, and I can see very capable team and very professional, and so I think there's a lot to offer, and so I wish all the success to NepalSutra.
Okay, thank you, Megh Ale. And what would you like to say to the youth in Nepal who aspire to someday be successful enough to incorporate their passions in life with their professional work?
I would say the attitude.
Uh-huh.
So people have that attitude. So the formula of success, sometimes I tell to the corporate people and the youth as well. So it's all about attitude, the positive attitude. So whatever you learn, whatever you gain, so in universities, in classes, in whatever you do, that's only counts 10%. That's the experience. But more than 90% is the attitude. If you add 90% attitude plus 10% experience, that equals to success. And then you have to have a desire, you have to have a passion, and you have to have that dedication. So that leads to success too.
Thank you, Megh Ale. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for inviting me. NepalSutra, sabai kura Nepali. All the best, NepalSutra.